This majestic beast is a 1961 Bentley S2 Continental, one of only 4 built, and I've got it for a couple of hours to show you around. What you can't tell from the outside of this stunning vehicle is that it is in fact fully electric. It's an original 1961 car, but it's been carefully preserved and restored by Lunaz. This very car won't end up hidden away in a collection, it won't be outlawed by legislation, it'll be driven, probably daily, and hopefully spark the interest and intrigue from the next generation. I caught up with Aiden McCafferty to find out more. We're sat then in this sumptuous Bentley Continental S2, or S2 Continental should I say.
Absolutely.
Was this something that Lunaz had always wanted to do, or was it a customer that came to you first and said, that's the car I want you to reimagine for me?
Well, I mean, I think the business has always focused, or predominantly thus far has focused on British classics. So
yeah,
I mean, you're not going to get a bigger name really than Bentley, Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, Range Rover, and Jaguar. They are the pinnacle British automotive brands, and I think that as the business grows and as our ambitions grow, I think we would like to see that progress, and I think we've had a lot of requests for other vehicles out with those marks, but we're focusing on what we know at the minute, and I think that's it's important because we know how to build it, and I think the research and development for each of these models has already been done. We understand them, but much like the definition of a classic, I think, changes with the passing of time. So too does the definition of a classic, depending on where you are in the world. These models and these marks hold such weight for us as Brits.
Yes.
But say we were to set up Lunaz in America, the definition of a classic there is completely different. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting to us. As the business grows, we might someday see Lunaz America and doing similar things to Corvettes and Cadillacs. Yeah, our job at Lunaz is to give these things a future and to give them a life and a purpose so that future generations can enjoy using them.
Yeah.
I think to see them legislated out of use would be a crying shame. It would be awful.
So let's talk about some of the sort of facts and stats of this particular car then, because we talk about these cars being sort of legislated out of use in particular places. This car would have originally had a 6.2 litre V8 engine,
yeah, absolutely.
which is a huge, great lump to have housed in the front there. Mm-hmm. How is the car? What's the powertrain that this now has? And tell me a bit about that.
So part of our process at Lunaz is to actually understand the vehicle that we're working with. So part of the process is to take the donor vehicle, understand weight distribution analysis, to understand how it performs with its combustion engine, all of the metrological assessment on all the parts and pieces of each vehicle. For this one in particular, we have replaced the V8 with a 80 kilowatt an hour battery, producing the equivalent of around 400 brake horsepower. But actually all of the other dynamics and understanding the dynamics of how the car drives, how the car brakes, how the car handles, has been done by our engineers all in-house. The battery management systems are done in-house, the software and the coding all written by our Lunaz engineers.
That's incredible actually, because the original cars were sort of under 200 horsepower, weren't they? They were 100 and I can't remember, sort of 100
and thereabouts.
160, 180, something like that. So that's a big hike, and then presumably to manage that extra power, suspension, brakes all have to be
all upgraded and all renewed. Where it makes sense to replace these things with modern alternatives, then we will. But fundamentally, we're retaining as many of the original components and parts as possible.
I suppose one of the things about this is that a lot of people will be thinking, yes, but the V8 engine is the heart and soul of the car. And so how do you overcome that, and how do you make sure that this retains the personality and characteristics of those cars from a dynamic point of view?
Well, I think it's back to my point about understanding the original car. We've taken that car out and done endless hours of driving to understand what it's like from a throttle pickup, from a torque perspective, from a braking perspective, and we're trying to mimic that. This should feel like driving a classic car. And I think that's important. Part of the client process is also to come down and drive the car and experience it. Of course, they're involved in the design element, and of course we've designed something beautiful here. But they also take the car out driving with our test and development engineers to give their feedback.
Do the clients go out? Have they been out in this sort of the original before you start that process, or?
It's sort of half and half. Some of the people that are bringing these cars to us, they're bringing us the family heirloom. It's part of a collection. Others, and I think it's worth pointing out, the majority are people who are new to the classic car world, and actually this is their first classic. So they may never have experienced that before. So it's important to take them out and make sure that they understand how the car handles and how the car performs.
So what sort of speeds will this car do then?
So we've limited it to 100 miles an hour. Actually, I mean, it's a bit like any of these classics or any of these sort of luxury brands, Bentley and Rolls-Royce in particular. You never get behind the wheel and want to drive fast. It's not the.
You just want to glide, don't you?
Absolutely, and they do. They glide beautifully, and I think that it will comfortably do 100 miles an hour. There's enough power there, and it's equipped to do it and safe to do it, but we think it's best to limit it there.
So you can drive around in all this comfort and beauty, but how far can you comfortably go? Because these sort of things were sort of cross-continent cruisers, really, weren't they? And you want to fill this with luggage and take yourself off to on a European trip or whatever, and that's what they're designed to do well. So can you do that sort of thing? Can you do big distances?
185 miles there or thereabouts out of a full charge, and of course, I mean, like a combustion engine, that will depend on how you drive, the conditions in which you're driving. If you floor it, you'll get far less. If you're more conscious and you're zipping around town, you'll get far more. It's quite simple.
And it'd be nice to see these sorts of things floating around town as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, you don't have to worry about congestion charge or ULEZ or anything like that.
It'll turn more heads, and some of these major capitals, London, Paris, all these stunning cities. What better car to glide around in?
No, it's super cool, super sophisticated, and it looks brilliant. Particularly in the colour that this client has chosen. Does it this lovely dark green? It's almost black in a sense, isn't it?
Yes, so we've taken a lot of inspiration for the colour here from where the car is eventually going to end up. It's a beautiful part of rural England. And you get this beautiful deep green colour, which is almost black. But you take it out in the sunlight, and you've seen it today. We're blessed with a beautiful morning. It comes to life. It has a life of its own, and it's truly a beautiful evocation of a classic Bentley design.
Stunning colour. And just having a look on the interior, then we've got this beautiful leather, but you're quite well known, even though you're a young company, for using all sorts of different materials, not just leather. So you can literally choose anything, and in terms of to clad the interior of your car.
But we live in a world of conscious consumerism these days, and I think that we are seeing that. Our clients are, dare we say, from probably a different generation from the generation in which these cars were built. And therefore they're more conscious about what they're using in the car. So we see a lot of requests for non-animal materials, fabric interiors. So we see vegan leather alternatives.
The personalisation of your car isn't just down to the interiors. Lunaz take huge pride in the small details for every individual client. There's a real thoughtful, human approach to their design that echoes the spirit of the original handcrafted cars. A pair of personalised dog collars for one, a custom cigar box for another. What's more, nothing is wasted. Even the offcuts of leather are donated to schools to encourage the training of new artisans. If you put your foot down a little bit, let's sort of feel Oh yeah, that's wonderful, isn't it?
She moves.
Really, she does move, doesn't she? She gets up and going.
Yeah, the power, the power is absolutely there, and I think it's much like a modern Bentley, isn't it?
Yes.
You know that it's there. It's always sitting in reserve.
Yes, and you want to be able to keep up with modern traffic,
of course,
and feel there's enough power there to sort of overtake to
get you moving.
Whatever it is you need, whatever it is that you need to do. So I'm just having a look down at the control panels here, because it's all been kept in the sort of original layout, which is something I really, really like. So this is not you trying to sort of reinvent the wheel, as it were, but there's really cool touches other than having lovely mod cons like heated seats. I'm just noticing that you've also hidden away the satellite navigation system underneath there, so you're not cluttering up the dashboard at all.
No, not at all. I think essentially one of our design principles is that if you look through the window, this will look like a 1961 Bentley Continental. We don't want it to look different. The dials will read out differently. You'll see here we've got one that's a small digital screen for all of your driving symbols, warning lights, etc.
Yes.
But no, essentially it is exactly the same.
Fantastic. Well, look, the most important question is, can I have a go?
The $1 million question. Yes, of course you can.
Okay.
We'll give you a little
all right, let's find a place to pull over, and then we'll switch it up.
Excellent.
First drive then.
First drive.
Getting myself comfortable, and what's nice straight away is that you've not really you haven't messed around with the controls here at all.
No.
I've got the traditional stick on the right hand side, and I've got the park, reverse, neutral and drive, and so it's very intuitive just to get straight into this and pull that lever down and get into drive, and off we go. All the dials, the layout's really very natural as well, and as you say, there's this little LCD display which shows me what gear I'm in and that my headlights are currently on, and so it's all very simple and civilised.
Hopefully all very intuitive. Yeah, absolutely. I think that, as I said before, I think we are trying where we can to keep the original aesthetic, and within that incorporate all the modern conveniences that we've become so accustomed to over the years. Heated seats, there's a small deployable screen, technology on demand. It's not in your face. All the gauge positioning remains the same, but the readouts might be different. As you say, some are for power, charge, miles per hour. The screen itself has Apple CarPlay connectivity. Yeah, brilliant. Which is again, I think we've all become so accustomed to. Part of our process is to make sure that our clients are comfortable, and we will go out with our test and development engineers and myself, and actually show them how to use the car. For those that maybe haven't driven one, as you say, in this vehicle class beforehand, it's always good to make sure that we, the car is operating as they would like. Once we've reconditioned these seats and used both the original substrates and then of course more substrates on top of it to bring them back to their best, we also need to make sure that people fit. So much like a nice tailored suit, you get a seat fitting appointment and a seat fitting session, where we'll just make sure that everything is as it should be before we eventually hand over the keys and send you on your way. So what do you think?
Well, it's funny because it may come as no surprise to you to know that I've not driven an original 1961 S2 Bentley Continental, so I don't have that. I can't benchmark it against that, but I have driven old Bentleys and old Rolls Royces, and what I would say is, immediately the steering feel, you have, got that sort of dialed down very well, and so you do feel that immediately, the way the car feels, and also rides. I mean, you'd expect them to be supremely comfortable and soak up the bumps, and it does do that. You obviously notice that it's quiet.
You don't have to raise your voice.
But there is a noise, and of course, if I sort of accelerate a little bit more down here, you can hear something, but it is very, very slight, isn't it? When you step into something like this, you almost feel that refinement straight away, don't you? You know, you feel like you need to sort of dress for the occasion.
You feel like you should have a cravat or something.
That's right. That's right. I did put a shirt on. I don't know if you noticed.
I've noticed that.
But I did put a shirt on underneath my collecting cars jacket just to try and get into the role.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's worse parts of the country to be driving around, isn't there? It's
absolutely
a beautiful morning.
Yeah. But I could well imagine, as well as being sort of driving around through here, I could well imagine then having the confidence to take something like this into a city, and I think that's, when we see these cars photographed, when we look back in albums of the past, they were at events, of the sort of rich and famous back then, through the sort of 60s and 70s. I'm sure there's lots of rock and roll stories of the Rolling Stones
Absolutely. I suppose it's the beauty of what we do as well. We're not creating something new, we're actually taking something that has history, it has heritage, and there's a lot of what we do that honours that. I think that within the design element, and if you've visited before, you know how much we focus on design, and it's incredibly important, whether that's important to the individual who's buying the car, or indeed we have some hospitality clients, so linked to the hotel or the casino or the institution in which the vehicle is going to be used. It's really important to link them.
Yes.
So for a lot of the hotels that we've worked with recently, we're working with actually a team of interior designers rather than an individual.
Yeah.
So those interior designers are trying to create the feel, the look and the feel of the hotel, so that when you step out of the airport and into a wonderful, Rolls-Royce silver cloud, it feels like you've already arrived at the hotel before you're there.
Yeah, wonderful.
But the history and the heritage of each of these vehicles is so important, and we actually have one that's back at the facility at the moment, who the original owner of the car was Sophia Loren.
Yes.
You imagine the amount of emotions and conversations that evokes. They're things of true beauty.
So you really sort of are, or sort of see yourselves as custodians of these vehicles.
Absolutely.
And
I think our clients
really
do as well.
All around sort of preserving the car. This car, originally rolled off the factory line in 61, so it's sort of 62 years old. So where do you think that leaves the sort of its legacy for the next sort of generation then? Do you think, what sort of state will we find this in 100 years from now, for example?
Look, I mean, technology only gets better, right? I mean, I think in 1961 when this was built, paint technology wasn't as it was. I'm sure the sort of protective coating technology for the metalwork wasn't as good as it is now. So this restoration that's been done, the car lasted 60 years from being built till now, and I truly believe that with the upgrades in technology since then, we'll see this car last for another 100 years quite easily. From a battery and from a powertrain perspective, your battery recycling technology is getting better, battery cell technology and longevity is only getting better. I think I read a couple of days ago it's tripled in the last decade. Range has tripled from the same amount of power output.
What you're saying is all of the new processes, the modern manufacturing, restoration processes enable this car to live on for a lot longer, but also from a technology point of view, you sort of future-proof yourself in the sense that you can swap out the technology the powertrains as those develop, so that whatever the future holds, this car
is prepared for it.
Will be prepared for it.
Yeah,
wonderful.
So there you have it, the most stylish, sustainable and exclusive electric vehicle money can buy.
This may seem like some kind of fantastical folly to those without 750k to spend on our green credentials, but when big V8 engines are outlawed from cities, you may thank Lunaz for the chance to see such a magnificent machine silently glide past you.